Hi, this is Kristin Clark with College Planning Untangled, and I'm here with Bobby Hood, where we like to talk about all things college and helping families simplify this college planning process as much as we possibly can. Bobby, how are you doing today?
Just great. Just great. I'm excited about our guest today. This is gonna be good. So as we enter the
I'm
fall weather, we're gonna get to start talking about school. Everybody's in school now, and like they got to start figuring out what to do this year. Very
I know,
excited.
right? And this is a topic that, we're not experts in. So we wanted to bring in an expert that knows a lot more about it than we do. I'm sure we have our opinions like we always do. But, we wanted to go to somebody that does this for a living. So I'm just going to go ahead and bring Mark on and
Great.
I'll tell you a little bit about Mark. Mark, hello.
Hi.
So Mark is the Associate Director of Admissions at Harding University and has been in the college setting or the college world for 20 plus years.
Wow.
That's right.
Yeah, and he has a couple programs that he wants to tell us about that to help students study at the college level. Yeah, Mark, and to get us started, I just have to tell you a little story about my study skills and how I'm built. As the people that watch know, I help students figure out a career path and a college major. And with that, I do use the Clifton Strengths Assessment. And how we're built probably comes into play a little bit when we're thinking about study habits and skills and all that good stuff. And when I was in high school, I can tell you, I didn't really have to study and I could get pretty good grades, right? So I trot off to college, I get, nestled in, and I figure out that I have to study in college. And I had no idea truly how to do it. And it looked like everybody else had their act together but me.
Right.
And I ended up truly, because I got frustrated with it, going, you know what? C's get degrees. And that's where I was,
Right.
but I got my piece of paper and I was like, but what's really terrible about that is I knew I was a better student than that. I knew I was smarter than that.
Mm-hmm.
And I just kind of said, forget it. So that's why this is near and dear to my heart.
Well, it's interesting. I've been doing this for a while, and I've been on the college campus for about 21 years, and I've noticed that you don't have to be super smart to do well at the college level. It doesn't hurt by any means, but people, I think, define themselves by their ACT, SAT, or CLT scores, and they think, well, since I didn't get this high score, then I'm not that smart and I can't do well. And I'm here to tell you that's just a one snapshot picture. It doesn't define you. It's not your future. And I just want to give encouragement to any student that may not have the stronger scores, or even if you do have stronger scores, you're going to hit a brick wall sooner or later. And I've seen several, at least one national merit finalist drop out, have to leave Harding because they couldn't study. They didn't know how to study. It was easy for them all throughout high school, but then when they got to the college level, they didn't know how to do it. But even students that have lower scores, don't let that scare you, because it's not a matter of being smart. It's about how to use your time just a little bit differently, that you can do extremely well. When I was in high school, you mentioned, Kristin, you didn't have to study. Well, I did. I have 3 older brothers, and they had the high ACT scores. I was right in the middle. And so it was nothing super brilliant, but I had to work for my grades. But all I did was I just worked hard, and what I would do is I stay up late the night before every test and cram everything in. That was the night before method was my study strategy all through high school, and I could get an A on a test. But here's the thing: if you were to give me the exact same test just 1 week later, I'd have to do all this cramming all over again because I never truly learned the material effectively.
Right. Hallelujah to that.
So what I would do is I would stay up late, and that's what I took to college, because that's all I knew. Nobody teaches this stuff. high schools don't teach it. Colleges don't teach it. If they do, it's real perfunctory. It's just surface level. But so when I went off to college, I just stayed up late the night before. It was not uncommon to see 3 or 4 in the morning, doing my homework, staying up late, trying to cram in for this next test or whatever it is, because my study habits were poor. Time management is the biggest challenge for every student. They don't know how to use their time, and I was one of those. And so I just thought I'll stay up super late and just cram everything in.
And you weren't the only one doing that, because
there's a whole slew of us.
Yep.
And again, I got A's on tests. But again, if you were to give me the exact same test just a week later, I'd have to cram it all in again, because I never truly learned the material effectively. So it was halfway through my junior year. I'm 3.5 years in at Harding, and I'm taking a class called International Relations. It was a current event class. It was a hard class, but in that class, I missed an A by 1 point, just 1 point, missing an A. And a B versus an A is not the end of the world. But I was so frustrated that when I went home over Christmas break, I thought, you know what? Harding's going to pay, right? When I get back over in January, man, they're not going to put a B on my transcript again. And so what I did was I started doing things a little bit differently, because I was extremely motivated, and I started paying attention to class, to the teacher and the professor, and I started taking better notes. And instead of waiting till the last minute, what I thought, well, I'll just get to it sooner, right? So I started a little strategy, I developed a little system. And after that first test, that spring semester, I got an A on that test, and I just did my system a little bit more, and I got to my second test and I got another A. And then when I got to my third test, I was saying, bring it on, buddy. I'm going to blow this baby out of the water. And I did. I ended up making a 95% or higher in all my classes that semester. But I was super involved. It wasn't like I was just studying all the time. I was taking 17 credit hours. I had a part-time job in charge of a dormitory. I was an officer in my social club. I was in a band that traveled for the university. I wasn't just studying, is my point. But when I figured out how to do it, I enjoyed taking tests, because I was extremely prepared, and it wasn't just getting an A. I learned the material extremely well, and I thought, you know what? Maybe someday I'll write a book or something so that I can help other students, because, like I said, schools don't teach this stuff, at least at the level that I do. And I want students to be extremely successful and still get involved in all the college atmosphere, all the fun stuff. But they have to go to class. They're there for an education. And so I want them to learn the material extremely well, and yet have an amazing college experience. And that's what I do. That's what I do.
I think you brought up a really good point, and that is time management is a big challenge for our college students.
Yep.
And one of the fun facts that I always love throwing out for our parents that are nervous about their kid having a job during college is that it's actually healthier for them to have a job, because they get better at time management.
Yes. And you'll find, even like with some athletes, it's like a job, and having a job, there's something about it that forces your brain to realize, I have to be here, and I have to, I'm going to be at my job from 3 to 6 or from 6 to 10 or whatever that time. And so you don't have a choice. You have to be disciplined enough. So having a job, or having being a theater major or whatever, something extra outside of class will force you to be a little bit better with your time management. Now, I believe there comes to a point where you can spread yourself too thin,
for sure,
and not have enough time. But I wouldn't be scared to have a job or be involved in a couple things. That should be okay.
Yeah, I agree with you. Go ahead.
I definitely, I had a similar experience in that when I was in college, same deal. I started trying to do that, figure everything out the night before, all that. And I realized that I could do that with some classes, but there were some I couldn't, and that surprised me. And then that woke me up to something, right? And then, in retrospect, what I realized is that the semesters that I was the busiest and had the heaviest course loads, I got the highest grades those semesters because I had to be organized to get all my stuff done in my life. And so I was organized. And when I had a light course load and not much to do, I did terrible because I never organized myself and I just ignored everything and did everything at the last minute. And then when I attended law school, then all of that went to another level. And I thought, okay, well, I'll just use those organization skills that I learned in college and do that. But when you're in grad school, particularly, it is mostly about time management and effort. It's no longer about being the smartest.
That's right.
It's about working hard every day and doing work every day. And you have to do work every day or you are going to get so behind. There are so many books to read, so many cases to read, so many whatever, so many, and so you need a system. And that's what's so helpful for me as an ACT tutor and SAT tutor, and then also tutoring college students. A lot of what I do is I sort of tell the parents, okay, I am treating your kid like an adult. Mm-hmm. I am telling them, here are some things you have to do. You will not be successful unless you do it. Here's how many hours it will take. You should do it at this schedule, but you are in charge of it. I'm not going to text you and tell you to do it. Don't meet with me again until you've done this, right? And they have to. And so if they don't do it, and some of the students, they just don't show up for a couple months because they didn't do it. And then finally, then they show up and I'm like, okay, you're ready to do it. And then they do it, right? But that is I'm trying to teach them some of this stuff. But I'm really excited to meet you, Mark, because maybe I could send some of my students your way for them to learn about this stuff. So that's what I wanted to talk about.
Yeah, you raise a good point. I teach my kids. My kids are in high school and I have one in college. And it's like they struggle to get stressed and frustrated. I thought, if you'll just do what I told you, you'll be fine. But I guess, the kids, my own kids have trouble with this because they Mark, feel like they don't need it. But then my daughter, this last year, ran into a class that stats class at the college level, got a D in it, which she's never had a D before. And I'm saying, okay, you have the tools. You need to have the self-discipline to do it. And it's not like this is hard stuff.
Right.
It's just, like I said, rearranging your time differently and doing the little things every day. You mentioned about every day. And once you start, like a big thing is skipping class. At the college level, most professors aren't going to take roll, and a student will think, I got all this freedom. I don't even have to go to class. Okay, if you miss one class, the problem is that information builds on the next class, which builds on the next class. And if you miss just one piece of that, you're already behind, and it's nearly impossible to catch up because the speed of the class is pretty quick. And they go through a lot of information in a short period of time. And a lot of this, you have to be you're going to learn on your own outside of class. You have to have the discipline to do the reading, go over the notes. And a lot of it, and that's what's great about, if you're homeschooled, a lot of these homeschool students are already kind of geared that way. They do a lot of self-teaching on their own outside of class. But even at the college level, you're going to come across some roadblocks, and you're going to get to a point where it's going to be tougher than what you're used to doing. So even for students that have the high scores and they never had to study before, there's going to be a time where that's not going to work for you. And you really need to start taking the notes and using your time and going over those notes. And I have a plan that lines all that out, which is easy to do. It's just doing it. That's the problem.
Can you give us just a base for our listeners that are listening right now? And by the way, if you're listening right now, please definitely ask questions of Mark. But Mark, what steps? Can you give us a flavor of what they are?
Yeah, there's just 4. It's called the 4 study steps. And I didn't set out to design this. It just happened that way. I found that this was the little system I developed. And when I did it, I just simply did those steps every day. And it was like, whoa, I understand this stuff and it works, and I can still have a great experience and get involved and still blow the top off all my tests. So there are 4 steps. And the first one is to go to class, pay attention, and take great notes. That's study step 1. Study step 2 is to go to your study zone. I talk about how to find a place where you study. Okay. So you're going to go straight to your study zone and study your notes immediately, thoroughly, and in order, and then study all previous day's notes. Okay. And that little piece right there changed everything. Studying all previous day's notes, not just the notes from today.
That's synthesizing. That's great.
Yeah, and because you're going over it every day, and it doesn't take that long because you're going over it every day. Your brain is so smart that all you got to do is look at it, and it all comes back. So that was study step 2. Study step 3, do your reading. There's a ton of reading at the college level, and if you get behind, it's nearly impossible to catch up. So you've got to put in the time to keep up with your reading. And then study step 4 was to complete any homework assignments if you had any, or work on an upcoming project, because a lot of college classes, nearly everyone, will have some sort of project due later on. And if you're like most students, you wait till the last 2 or 3 days before it's due. You pour all your energy into that project. You forsake all your other classes. You're turning in a mediocre project, and everything's stressed, and you're not going to do very well. So excellent students turn in excellent projects. And so I teach students how to use their time so they can devote time so they can turn in an excellent project, something that they're proud of, and learn something in the process. So those are the 4 steps. And there's a reason why they're steps 1, 2, 3, and 4. And the main one is going over those notes has to be immediate. You can't, once you reach the 3-hour time limit, I call it the window of recovery in my course. If you go past that before going over those notes, you're just creating more work for yourself. If you can get to those notes within 3 hours after class, it's so easy because it's just, they're so fresh in your brain. It's not like you have to put more work. And I don't want students to have to go through more work. I want to try and make this as easy as possible. So if they'll just get to the notes soon after class, it's so easy. It's so fresh. And so what you do is that's why it's step 2, is because they have to go over their notes immediately. All right. And then they can devote the time to the reading. And that's going to be the bulk of their study time. Because like I said, I'm a slow reader, but you've got to keep up with the reading, because if you don't do the reading, you know that a professor has the right to put a question or 2 or 3, even though they didn't discuss it in class. If it's in the reading, it's fair game. So you've got to keep up with the reading. So that's in there, obviously. And then you may have homework. You probably will have some assignment that's due the next class session. You've got to keep up with those and work on projects. So that's why there's steps 1, 2, 3, and 4. And just those 4 simple steps. I mean, I loved it. It worked for me. And I thought, dude, I'll help other students hopefully be successful. And you can take different learning styles into, some people say, well, I'm an auditory learner, or I'm a, kinetic learner, whatever. This, to me, I think the things that I bring in, I think it kind of brings in all aspects of learning, because there's different styles that you can use. And I've found that most every student that has gone through my course, I see them at a convention or whatever and say, hey, you changed my life. This was amazing. I wish we had found this earlier. And then I have a lot of parents tell me that, okay, I try to tell them a lot of the same stuff you do, but when you tell them, then they'll do it. It's a
right. The third party person
benefit. Right. Yeah. Yes, which is why we all have jobs, which is awesome.
Right. Well, this is really interesting because, one thing, I tell my students when I'm tutoring them, okay, I'm going to tell you the strategy, and it's going to sound like something that you would tell a 5th grader to do. Right. It's going to sound so simple, but just trust me and do it, and it's going to make your life a lot easier, right? And so that's exactly what this sounds like, and it makes so much sense. And also, I tell my students all the time, and this is why I love doing this, because I just learned something that I hadn't thought about, a different way of thinking about something from you, and I appreciate that, Mark. Like I tell my students all the time, okay, I've told you these strategies. You're only going to actually recall maybe 3 things out of the 20 minutes of talking or whatever, out of each 20-minute block. And so I say, if you want this tutoring process to be really easy and really successful, the moment we finish our session, you need to go and look at the notes and apply the strategies like right then. Go to your take your next English reading section, whatever. Right. Take the next one right now. That's the only way to get it set as muscle memory and remember it. If you do that, then you'll remember it. And if you don't, you are creating more work for yourself. But I've never said, I just always say, sometime in the next couple of days, you probably should do it. But, like if they looked at the notes, though, if they re-review through what we just went through in the next 3 hours, I've never told them to do that. And if I tell them to do that, I bet then say, okay, and then take your next section in the next couple of days. But that's the key. And I didn't think about that. Yeah, this is going to help my students so much right there. And
sooner is always better than later.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
And so, And so in that course, the first step was to go to class and take great notes. Well, I have a whole section on how to take those notes. I never knew how. Section on how to read textbook reading, which is sometimes boring and hard to get through. I'm not a great reader. I'm not a
don't have to be
expert, but I give you tips on how to get through that reading quickly and effectively.
That's great.
How to use time and how to write papers and so there's a whole bunch in the course. And by the way, the course is only 10 days at roughly an hour a day, just 1 hour a day. Maybe some days may take a little bit more than that, but roughly an hour a day. There are about over 40 videos. Mm-hmm. I do all the teaching. So again, my goal is to help students be students of excellence. And it doesn't matter what subject. It could be math, science, English, history, foreign language.
Yeah.
It's just teach students how to learn and how to apply the information they're learning. So
Mark, what have you found is the best time for parents to introduce this to their students? As we know, these are all timed events, and it depends on the kid and all that good stuff. What's the best time?
I would say 8th grade on up. And the reason for that is as a college administrator, we've found that, your high school grades matter, especially when it comes to
even 9th grade.
That's the whole point, because everybody wants more scholarship money. Well, I get these students that come in and their sophomore year high school, some life situation happened. And so that year was a bad year. Well, even though they made straight A's their junior and senior year, they couldn't catch up.
Right.
And so
GPA
their
is not high enough.
is right. And so I would say the sooner you can put these things into practice, the more they become habitual and part of your learning system. All right. They become a part of you. And that's the whole point. So I recommend 8th grade on up, or age 13.
So your course speaks to that age group very easily.
Yeah, it's written at like a 7th grade level, but all of the illustrations are a college classroom.
Right.
So some of those students may not get that, but the principles they can easily get, and they can easily apply them. And so I have my children do it every August, 2 or 3 weeks before school starts.
I love that.
Just to get a refresher. But once you get it, you should, it becomes a part of your system. It's just like anything. You want to be successful in anything, you got to do the steps, put in the time. And once you do it, it's like driving a car. At first you drove and it's like, I had to think about how to steer, how to put the gas and the brake on. But after a while, it was just your subconscious just did it. And that's what I want students to do is, hey, I'm learning something. I'm writing this down. I'm going to go over as soon as class gets out. I'm going to use my time. And I can't go to watch a movie with my friends right now. I got to use this time. I'll watch a movie with you later. But right now is the critical time that is the golden moment to learn this information as easy and quickly as possible.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think too, since you start taking AP classes in 9th or 10th grade sometimes, and that's college level work. That's what AP is, and so why not learn how to? Because it may be that you can get through all your other classes without this, but you need to start treating those AP classes like college level classes, and you need to learn these things. Yeah.
Right. And here's another thing. A lot of families have told me, well, this particular son of mine is not going to college. He's going to go to trade school or the military. But even in the military and trade schools, there are still classes they're going to learn and manuals they have to get through. Why not put yourself in a position to be the best at what you do? So this can still apply to those actually not going to college. That go to other fields.
I would say it applies to having a job too. I can recall a lot of situations in my work life where where this method also would have benefited me greatly.
Time management for adults. We all struggle with it. I'm not saying I'm perfect at it either. I preach this stuff to myself, but we always have, doing things poorly is easy. right? It's easy to get distracted, easy to get discouraged, and let that sit in our brain. It's difficult to do the positive aspects of our life. And so it does take work. It does take discipline. But once you do it, I promise it will make a huge impact in your daily life, or household chores even, or obviously, especially students. That's what I focus on. But this helps me in all manners of my professional life as well.
Awesome.
That's great.
Yeah, Mark, thank you so much for taking us through that. And for our listeners, let's talk a little bit about the name of the study strategy as well as where to find it.
Okay, so the course is called Making the Grade, and it is found at the website 4studysteps.com. Okay, the
And
number 4, don't spell it out. 4studysteps.com. That was my study strategy. But the 10-day course, it's either online or I have a hard copy version as well. So I know a lot of families like the workbooks and the actual textbooks thing. That's fine too. It comes with 46 videos as well. Again, I do all the teaching and roughly an hour a day for 10 days. And it's normally $179 for a lifetime subscriptions. I give families the permission because they usually have multiple children.
Yeah.
I give families permission to use it over within their immediate family. All the children can do it for lifetime. However, if a family is interested in this sort of thing, I have a discount of $30, so it'll only be $149. And all you got to do is go to 4studysteps.com, select the college prep course. You'll select join or shop, whatever you want to do to get the hard copy version, but you'll type in the promo code Untangled. If you type in Untangled in the discount code, I'll give you $30 off. So it's only $149. You can use it over and over and over again. Take your time, self-paced. You don't have to do it in 10 consecutive days. Use it however you feel is necessary. But anyway, you can contact me. My contact link is on there if you run into any questions, but that's good until September 15th, by the way.
Okay.
From now through September 15th at midnight or 11:59 p.m. specifically, you can type in Untangled and get $30 off the 10-day course that could potentially change your academic future.
All right. I put that into the chat, so everybody will have that. And for any of our viewers, if you've got a quick question, we've got a couple minutes. And Mark, I just want to thank you a ton for coming and talking to us.
Oh, my pleasure. I love doing this stuff. This is amazing.
I heard Mark speak at a homeschool convention, and I was like, hey, you got to come and talk to our listeners because they would definitely want to take advantage of this. So
I will definitely be sending some of my students your way. I know I have parents who say, you've got to help my student get some study skills and things. And so, this will help a lot.
Agreed. Yep. I've got some too. So
I love to help them.
All right. Thanks, Mark.
Well, thanks so much, Mark.
And as a reminder, everybody, you've seen us before, but for our newcomers, we've got Bobby Hood with, he's an ACT, SAT online tutor. I work with students, and I'm going to put him on the ticker so that you guys can see our information. I work with students, helping them to figure out a career path and the right college major or another path. And if they decide college isn't the right place to get to their goal, I'm agnostic to that, but I love to help students really figure out what they're going to love to do for the rest of their life. So.
All right. Thanks so much. This is really great.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.